Alright, what's up y'all? Jesse here, Saddle Wheels Fishing. Hanging out in my shop today because I got to do some work to my boat. I'm doing something I've never done before, and that's replacing a power trim motor on my Suzuki here. It's about coming up on 5, actually it is 5 years old now, and I probably got close to 800 hours on it. And I noticed over the past year it's been a little bit noisy. I tried bleeding it and stuff, and it helped it. I definitely had some air in the system. But recently it's been, when I'm trimming it up, especially when it gets on the single ram in the middle, it gets real slow and doesn't sound good. And actually the other day at the boat ramp I pulled up, went to trim it up off of the engine supports that I use now, and it wouldn't even move. And for a minute I thought I was in a bind, but I kept just messing with it, and finally it started working. It seems to be more so when it sits for a while, and then the first time I use it is when it's not wanting to do so, but once it gets working it seems to be okay. So it's failing for sure, and warranty would cover this. I do have 6 years of warranty on this, but unfortunately they need it to fail completely before the dealer can warranty it, and that's just a luxury I don't have right now, having all these charters booked. So thankfully my local dealer, Stroud & Son Marine in Hertford, once again hooked me up with a really good deal on this aftermarket Sierra power trim motor that he had laying on the shelf. He ordered it for somebody, they never picked it up or whatever. So what I'm going to do is replace the stock one with that today, try to anyway. And I'll probably pull the stock one apart and see what's going on with it, because I know you can order parts to rebuild it and go ahead and get that rebuilt and have it, you know, for spare. That way I have two and I wouldn't have to worry about it anymore. So first off, let's see if it'll actually move today. So let me flip this camera around. Cool. All right, we got it sitting here. I just turned the power switch on. Okay, as you see it, I have it on the engine supports that I use now, that I ordered online, and they just fit over the rams, which really helps stabilize my engine during transport because I trailer so much. But yeah, let's see what she does. Hear that last little bit right there? God, it's so noisy. That motor, the way it died out, was like, that's definitely not normal. So yeah, she's not happy, and you can tell I still got air in the system. It doesn't sound good. But go ahead and pull these off here, get them out of the way. Actually was recommended these by somebody to follow me down the road and said my engine was dancing all over the place, I need to stabilize it. So he recommended them, and they actually work great. So now I have to get down in here is the trim motor assembly. So I got to get the wire loose first. I'm going to pop the top cover off the engine, put it back down for that. That way I can get the wiring and everything loose, and then we'll start working on getting the trim body off. Alright, so we got that off. It's one of these two wires there. They run up into here. Might have to take these second covers here off as well to be able to get a good eye shot on where that wire comes up. Alright, let me check on this real quick and I'll get back with you. Okay, I went ahead and popped that side cover off. It was just like 6 bolts holding it on, and I tilted the motor up some so I could get my eye in there and so I can see which wire, and it's this one here. As you can see, it's in this bracket, so I'll have to take that bolt out and cut these zip ties here to separate these two wires. So I'll go ahead and do that real quick. Really like to take a lot of these fasteners that haven't been moved out by hand instead of using impactors or power tools, because sometimes they'll have corrosion on them and you really have to work them back and forth and use lubricant to get them out, because if you break some of these off you could really put yourself in a bind quick. So you gotta take your time with it. I'll eventually have to put the motor back up, you know, for taking it off naturally to be able to get to the motor, and I'll use the tilt lock, but I'm just trying to make sure I have the right wire here before I do that. Alright, see, the wire comes up from the trim motor. It's this one here. It goes up in there, and if you look up in here, there's a tab that's holding all of these wires together, so I got to get in there and pick that apart real quick, so I'm going to do that real quick. Also put my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing here. Alright, see, it's just one of those like teeth snap clips that was holding that together right there, so we got that out. So now we'll just continue following the wire. Alright, so basically I followed it up and it goes to this plug right here. This is what's powering the trim assembly. So I'm going to go ahead and unplug that real quick. Actually, to be smart, before I do that, I'm going to tilt the motor back up and lock it. Alright, it's sitting on the service locks down here now. I basically trimmed it all the way up and flipped these two tabs down for servicing. That way the engine's held up. There we go, that was fun. Alright, so that's loose. Alright, so down here, you can see the light. That kind of fits into that little rubber grommet, so we'll have to just pop it loose and pull it out through that real quick. Pretty self-explanatory, so I'm gonna do that real fast. There, got the wire loose. So when I did that, the wire pretty much pulled right out. Now it just goes right straight down to the motor. So now we can start the process of taking the motor out. All right, so I went and got a big screwdriver, flathead, because now we have to get up in here. See that screw up in the top there? That's the manual pressure release screw. So we're going to turn that to make sure there's no pressure on the system first, and it just turns, you know, counterclockwise to loosen. So I'm gonna just do that real fast. All right, that's loose, so there's no pressure on the hydraulics at this point. So now we get to see if we can get this motor off. And basically that's her right there. I'll have to take that top Phillips screw out right there for the little clamp that's just holding the wires. It looks like it's actually rusted in too. And then we got 4 bolts around the body, 3 of them which will be real easy. That back one back there in the back, we'll have to do, you know, a little bit of extension and electrical tape trick to get out. So I'll grab my wrenches for this real fast. Yep, and that's why I put cardboard down, because you're always going to drop something. Alright, so here is that little Phillip bolt, just a wire retainer in the clip. It was rusted off already. This bolt was really tight. I actually ended up using a ratchet with a number 3 Phillips head on a socket to get it broke loose and turned out. Successfully got it out without stripping it. Now I got to do the 4 bolts. The three of these are easy, and for whatever reason it's a standard size bolt. The 3/8 on these fit the best, so I just got a little 1/4 inch drive and a wobble extension just to help get in here. I'll go ahead and do these real quick. Oh man, they're barely even tight. That was not tight at all, hardly. Which may be normal. So there's anything wrong with it. I gotta get a shorter socket. Alright, I got 3 of them out. Now for the fun one. Alright, as you can see in there, I've got the light right. The 2 front ones and this the left back one out. Now I have to get back in the very back corner and get that last one out, and I can already tell that's going to be a fun one. So basically, like I said, I got just a short extension here, 1/4 inch universal, and the 3/8 short socket. I'm going to try this first if I can get it. Yep, you got it. Broke it loose. I just gotta spin it out. It's cloudy today. It's nice. It's actually a little bit cooler for this. Definitely very humid though. It is humid. Can't tell if I got it all the way out or not. Yep, I got it all the way out. She just popped right out of the hole. So now I should be able to just break this motor loose and pull it out. All right, let's see if that's gonna work for me. Squat down a little bit here. All right, y'all, sorry I didn't film that part. Actually, I had to reset my camera. I reached in and popped it loose, and it broke loose, and there was some pressure in the system. I probably should have loosened this cap first to let any pressure out, because it kind of made a little bit of a mess and spilled some oil. I don't know, it's the first time I've done this. That may be normal, but it came right out. And I've got the unit sitting here, the old one. So I'm gonna get some rags and get cleaned up real quick here. All right, I got my little mess cleaned up here, good enough for now. I went ahead and wiped the surface area down really good there. Got that cleaned up. And something I'm definitely gonna have to do, I've noticed, is the connectors here on the end of this. It's just little eye connectors. And of course the stock one has this waterproof style with flat terminals in it. So I'm going to have to depin this and put some terminals like that onto these wires and use this connector to keep it all kind of stock. Also, there's no real color coding on this one. Well, yeah, I guess there is. There is a white stripe on this wire here, and this one is solid black, you know, to where this one is blue and green. So I'm going to orient the wires in the connector and basically hook it back up to match the location of the wires. I'm assuming that will be correct. So I'm going to work on that real quick, getting this removed and the terminals and everything swapped over. Alright, so I got to get this rubber here out first. I'm just going to take a little pick, pop it out nice and easy. Try not to damage it if possible. There we go. Let's see how these are locked in place. There's little tabs down in there that you'll depress to get these out. Sorry, my hands are shaking so bad. I've had way too much caffeine today. That should do it right there. Yep, there goes one. Depress that other little tab. Not quite got it yet. There it is. Yep. Alright, so these are out. We can reuse this. And we should be able to take this over to the vise and open this up and reuse these terminals as well. So I'm going to get set up for that. Alright, y'all, I successfully got one of the terminals off to where we can reuse it. Sorry if that's out of focus. Basically, to show you how I did that, this basically took the wire and just locked it into the vise just below the terminal, good and tight like that, and took just a small pick and open up the bottom one, or the one that crimps the insulation and the wire a little bit, just so it'll come out. Reposition it like this, let it bite right in that corner real good. Tap this one in, open an ear. Basically just trying to get it just loose enough that you can get the wire out. Got it out, it's fixed, good enough to reuse. Of course, this isn't the ideal way to do this. You would want, you know, new terminals, but I don't have them and I have to get this thing back together. So this will work. I didn't damage them. They'll be able to crimp right back down and it'll work just fine. So now we're going to take the new one here and cut these two terminals off. I'm going to cut these wires down to where they're about the same length as the original. Alright, so I'm holding it with the original. As you see, they gave me a lot of extra, so I'm going to cut them down to where they're the same size. Which means I'll be taking about 3 inches off of them. And clip that off. Alright, looks like they did about a 3/8 inch strip of wire. Strip that one. Twist them up. And this is an important step right here. Don't forget to put your rubber grommet on before you clip the things on. So pull that off. Then go ahead and feed the wires through. The little sealing grommet for the connector. Alright, that's on like that. I'm going to clean these wires back up. Twist them some. Alright, now I need some crimpers. and just crimp them down. Yep, I got her. Alright, those bad boys are on there. We're ready to put that together. Alright, back over here by the boat. So now we just need to put these terminals back into the connector that they came out of here. There's a chance I might get these backwards, but if I do, I'll just have to switch them. It's not a big deal to do that. So these should just slide right in. That, yep, that one's locked. And yep, see, they're both locked in there good. Now I'm not going to slide the rubber up right now until I determine that I have them in here correctly and the motor actually goes up when you ask it to go up. Alright, so now we just have to reinstall this in the boat. For that, I have a new O-ring here, which I'm going to lubricate with some of the transmission fluid. I think it'll slip right on here and stay. Let me see. I might end up putting it in the... You want to stay on there? Looks like it wants to keep popping off. I'm surprised they don't have a groove here for this or something. It just sits there. That looks pretty good. And she's staying. Alright, so the O-ring's staying on this. I'm assuming this is the way you do it. I'll orient the wire over towards the side the way it was, and we're also going to have to line this up to where it should fit into the drive, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So basically over here, you see that drive thing right there? Focus. Come on, focus. Alright. That's what we got to get lined up with to drop this in place. And that back bolt back there in the back, I'm just going to go ahead and set it in. That way it's in place when we go to put it in a little better. Looks like that thing is straight, you know, 6 and 12 position. So that's where I'll set the one on the motor here. So the wire goes that way. So this should be turned about like so for it to fit in. Yep, that should do it. And once again, that bolt I'm talking about was this one here. I'm going to probably put a little bit of anti-seize on these, just so if I ever take it apart again, I can. Alright, so I got some anti-seize here. Just put it on this first bolt for now, just to keep this thing from corroding in place long term. And I'm going to try this by just setting this into this hole here and putting the motor in place. That way all I should have to do is reach in there with that universal and all to tighten this one up. So that's what we're thinking. Alright, so first we're going to double check that's oriented right. Yep, looks like it. The ring is in place. Yep, and it's staying. Try to just ease that right in there nice and easy. I'm worried about that O-ring being seated properly, so I'm gonna set this camera down and make doubly sure that thing is where it needs to be. I need 2 hands for that. Alright y'all, I got it on there, and I basically just used the same tools to run these screws in. I was very careful to make sure that O-ring is seated properly in that groove, and I went around and tightened these crossways to pull it down evenly to make sure that that O-ring doesn't walk its way out. And I've also went ahead and cleaned this up with an air gun and blew all the residual oil out of the seam here and wiped it all down. And I'm going to go ahead and tighten the pressure release screw back up and just route the wire around the outside of the engine for now and plug it into here, and just to check to make sure I've got these wired on the right side. So I believe it should be right. Actually, looking at the color of the wires there. Let me see, blue to blue. So yeah, I believe I got it right because I got the blue on the top. So that should be it, but we're going to double check that. So let's get down in here with my screwdriver. So let's see what I'm doing here. The pressure release screw. Snug it back up. Go ahead and plug this in, make sure nothing catches on fire. Should be fine. Those fit nice and snug. I'll put some dielectric grease in that connection as well, just to make sure it's good. Alright, so now we got to top the fluid back off on this unit here. So I have in this bottle basically some Dexron transmission fluid. Everything I've read, that's what it calls for. And we got the plug out here, and I'm pretty much just going to take this squeeze bottle, see how dang much we can get in here. There we go, she's full now. Once again, good use of the cardboard down here. Probably should have a pan down here, but I'm lazy. Alright, so we'll put the plug back in. Since we topped that off, get the light out of the way so it don't crush it. Hopefully. Well, hopefully it moves, honestly. I've already plugged the wire in to test it. Power is on. It's probably going to have a bunch of air in it, so I don't know how quick it's going to move, but let's see if it'll work here. Oh, yep, it's working. Oh, looks like it was trying to go down. It is. Alright, so the wires are color-coded backwards. Huh. Yeah, see, that's why you check it. That's hilarious. Let's see, look. Blue on top. Blue on top. So I just have to switch these two wires real quick. So let me do that. Alright, y'all, I just swapped the two wires around real quick. If you can see there, as you see, they're opposite now. And turn the power back on. Let's see if it's right this time, hopefully. Hey, look at that. So now we're going to flip this up. Make sure that wire isn't going to get bound into anything. That should be fine. Go ahead and cycle it all the way down and up. See what it sounds like. Oh man, that thing moves so much faster. Good land, that moves a lot faster. Alright, going back up. Ooh, still a little air in there. Alright, I'm gonna put it back down on the lock. Oh, easy. Easy there. Alright. Alright, we're gonna loosen this screw again, let the air bleed off of the system. Oh yeah, I hear all kinds of air. Alright, and we're going to let it sit for a bit. Just keep cycling it. Alright, that's it for that. Basically now all I got to do is just reroute the wires back up through here, the way it's supposed to be, get this connector put back together. Pretty much reverse the process of assembly, or actually reverse the process of disassembly, and triple, double, triple check everything, and we should be good. So I'm going to do all of that real quick. Alright folks, I got it pretty much all put back together on this side. The only thing I didn't have is the little retainer that goes on this screw right here that just holds the wire. I'll have to order one of those, but it's fine, it's not rubbing anything. I've got this retainer here back on, and the wires zip tied together very closely the way they should. Put it back into this one here, clip that together. I actually missed this. I'm glad I walked around and showed y'all. There, that one's clipped back in, and it's run up into the engine. I was very careful to make sure that everything in here was the way it should be. Nothing was rubbing, everything is zip tied down, and then installed the side cover back on the engine. Once again, very careful, making sure nothing was rubbing in here. While I have it up, I went ahead and popped this little circlip off right here, and I removed the pin off the center ram because there's no grease fitting on that particular pin, and it was pretty dry, to be honest with you. So I'm going to clean it up. It sits right here basically, Clean it up really good and clean the bore out over there really good as well, and then grease this up with some waterproof grease and put it all back together, and then I'll test the system one more time and continue bleeding it. Alright y'all, I have it pretty much all back together. I've cycled it up and down a couple of times getting air out of the system. I got the center pin back in here all greased up nice. Just kind of looked everything over, everything else looks good. I'll hit those grease fittings again, you know, tomorrow. I'm just going to let it sit, let the air bubbles come out of the fluid tonight. You know, at that point I'll just give the whole motor a good spraying with the 636 multi-purpose lubricant, just a corrosion protection, which I always do every time I crack it open, and it should be good to go. And now what I'm going to do is the fun part. Actually, what I've been wanting to see is breaking that old motor apart and seeing what's going on with it, how much damage 5 years on the water has caused it. So I'm going to get y'all set up on the bench with me here looking at this thing, and we're going to break it down and see what it looks like. Alright y'all, my battery is running low on my camera here, but it looks like there's just 2 screws, Phillips screws here, that hold this together. So crack those loose and get them out. Alright, those are out. And I don't see anything but a seal around that center piece. Thinking this should come right apart. Oh, there's a screw there. Let me take that out too. I didn't see it there on the wire. It might be important to take that out. I bet you this rubber pushes into maybe. I don't know, we'll see. Alright y'all, I got it apart. Pretty much the secret was I had to take this retainer off and put some WD-40 on these wires so they would slide through the seals, which would allow this to come off. And honestly, it's really good looking in here. Not as bad as I was thinking I was going to see. The brushes have some wear. Of course, I'm not sure how much brush was there to begin with. But they're still brush material. They're worn pretty evenly. Pull this here out. Pull the armature out itself. I mean, look at that. It's pretty clean. The brush surface looks pretty good. I was expecting to see a lot worse than this, actually. Contactors all seem fine. Probably test out each one of these to see the resistance, to see if there's a short maybe somewhere in there. Get another set of brushes for it, which you can see there's still brush material left. I don't know how much was there to begin with, so maybe that's the problem. The brushes are getting worn. And other than that, everything looks okay. So I'll throw some brushes in it and rebuild this one. Have it on the shelf for a spare. Anyway, well y'all, that's pretty much it for this video. Replaced the power trim on the Suzuki. It seems to be working just fine. There's definitely something going on with the old one. I'm not sure what it was. I was honestly expecting to see a little more damage inside of it, corrosion or something. But other than some worn brushes, it seems to be okay. So I'll definitely test everything out to make sure it's good before I put it all back together. Finish that up tomorrow, get the cover back on it, and she'll be ready to hit the water. So once again, thanks for watching. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please do it, because I do realize that looking at my stats, about 70% of the people that watch my videos aren't subscribed. It really does help, actually. Just click the button, help me out. And if you have any comments on what I did today, please put it down below, especially if you're a tech and I did something wrong. Other than that, peace out. Y'all have a good evening.